Welcome to Marvelicious Toys, hosted by Justin and his amazing friends, Arnie and Marjorie. We bring you news and reviews of Marvel toys, statues, and more, because not all Marvel collections can be bagged and boarded. They're not just toys, they're Marvelicious.
Let's talk about these figures. Let's talk about their packaging, because the package dork in me is a little bummed that I got damaged boxes, because I'm looking at these and these are pretty cool.
They are nice boxes. I like how they did the print on the back where it's glossy and the rest of the back of the box is matte.
Oh, Spot UV gets me every time.
Is that what that's called?
Yes, it is.
It is very nice, the way the figure... I thought it was like a sticker.
Yeah, it's done very, very well.
I gotta say, I thought that this was going to just be a gimmick. The increased price point and switching the packaging to a box, I was like, well, I open all my figures anyway, I don't care. But I really like this package. I really think that it's easier to get them undamaged unless you have your bad luck, Justin, because it doesn't have the heavy figure on the large card back that's going to crease so much and tear off the peg hole.
They're very gifty looking.
Yeah.
They are. These boxes are very telling, more so than just the effort put into it. It gives me this warm, fuzzy feeling that somebody at Hasbro is still on the collector's side. You know, because if you look at what they've been doing with the 6-inch figures, starting with the Star Wars 6-inch, Black Series, those were some of the first 6-inch figures to come in a box. And now these are pretty similar in size over here in the Marvel side. If I was a new collector just hopping in when I saw those Star Wars figures, and now I'm seeing Captain America and Spider-Man figures like that, I'm getting excited. I'm a new collector all of a sudden. These look cool to just pop up on a shelf, buy one of each or a couple from your favorite toy lines, and you've got new collectors coming in droves.
I do think that even though Legends came first, and I'm not implying anything different, but in the case of this packaging, I think they're following what Star Wars set as an example, because at Toy Fair last year, the Star Wars brand team said, these are premium figures and we are marketing them like premium figures. And they went to Lucasfilm and said, listen, you have this packaging template that Gentle Giant and Sideshow and all your high-end companies use when they put out high-end product with the black packaging and the silver logo. We want to use that and sell a high-end figure, and we want to put it in a box like the high-end Star Wars stuff. Here, I think the Marvel Legends team looked at that and said, yes, we are going to sell this as a high-end product. And in this box, it feels like a more high-end product, even though we're getting the same quality of figures we've always been getting and the same bucks reused. It does have a feeling that I think would pull in a casual adult collector, whereas the other packaging may not. I've hated the last packaging since they put it out, if you recall, with all of the over-branding.
Yeah.
This is doing it right. I love on the Spider-Man how they just got the spider on the top of the box.
Yeah, there's just so many cool little touches without it being overdone. The Marvel Legends logo is now prominently displayed at the bottom of the box, right above the name of the character. And one thing that I did notice on the Spider-Man line, the two movie figures from this wave actually have the Amazing Spider-Man 2 logo, whereas the comic series just have Marvel Spider-Man up there. So it's a neat little quick way to differentiate between the different characters.
Cool eye. I photographed these boxes and I didn't catch that.
Oh, and they actually have different artwork on their sides, too. Just slightly different Spider-Man poses.
Huh. Again, good eye.
Are the spiders different on top?
And yeah, the spiders are different on top. One has the more elongated movie one, and one has a more classic comic one.
Wow, they're doing a good job. Because if I was just going to say, hey, I'm only collecting the movie figures, well, there you go. You get these two, and they're their own thing. You don't have to get them all. Unless, of course, you want to build a figure. So I think we've drooled over this packaging enough. Should we start talking about some of the awesome figures inside?
So let's start by looking at these movie-based figures. There's two of them in this wave of 6. The first one is Spider-Man. And when we first saw him at New York Toy Fair, I got confused as to what Spider-Man this is. This is the movie outfit. They've kind of gotten away from the more moody, darker outfit he wore in that first one, and now he wears a outfit that looks like it could have come off the pages of the comic.
Yeah, completely. I mean, aside from the movie logo spider on his chest, this looks like It could be any old Marvel Legends Spider-Man figure to me.
He does come with extra hands.
Yeah, he does. He's kind of got the Hang 10 hands, right?
Heavy metal concert hands, I like to call them.
Right, devil horns.
Web shooting.
And he's got his rocking out fists.
And that is something new with these Marvel Legends. We haven't gotten these kinds of swap out parts since the Toys R Us 2-packs back in the day, have we really?
No, it's been a while since the figures themselves came with extra pieces and parts.
But I do like this new movie outfit. I have seen the trailers, the one that aired on New Year's night. I think it's got a good Spider-Man look. As somebody who preferred the Sam Raimi films to the new film, this one looks like they're past that new, more mopey origin story, and we're going to get a just good Spider-Man film in a good Spider-Man outfit that's not trying too hard just to be different.
That last movie had, like, rubber soles on the bottom of his feet.
Yep, he was wearing Nike.
Yeah. This just seems more like like you said, almost like the Sam Raimi costume.
Yeah, with just the more lengthy spider legs on the bottom. The figure, have we had this buck before?
Looking at this, I think this is a new sculpt.
I was thinking that too.
There's some interesting little things they're trying out with articulation here that I'm not too sure how I feel about just yet.
You and I are on the total same page. Are you talking about his arms?
Yeah.
I mean, from pec to wrist, this guy's got a lot of articulation that I'm not sure how I feel about.
I mean, I don't want to poo-poo it because I'm always for extra articulation, but there's some weird stuff going on here, especially in his shoulder blades. I mean, we've seen this style before in Spider-Man figures, but they've done it differently. It looks almost mis-sculpted because he has like a little ridge right at the top of his shoulder if you're trying to just give him a nice neutral pose that doesn't allow him to just stand normally.
He looks like one of those guys who you see in the lifting competitions whose shoulder muscles have grown to such a point that they have extra ridges.
Yeah.
Those are weird. I hate that.
And I guess the reason why I'm not sure if I want to say I don't like it yet is because all I've done with him yet is try to get him in a neutral pose, which is what I always do. But I think this is going to make for some great action poses. I mean, you can really get his arms behind him. You can almost touch his elbows behind his back.
Wow. The only thing I don't like is you can move his arms so much that you can actually see the interior connecting point of that shoulder hinge.
Yeah, but I think that's something that happens on action figures. You just have to live with it. On human, it'd be freaky. However, on a toy, it's not.
I find it a little freaky on the toy.
And just, looking at parts here, like, what's making me think this is a whole unique sculpt is that, the little webbing pattern is sculpted in here on all of his red parts. So that's unique to this figure. His spider is actually sculpted on his back and on his chest. That's raised.
His arms also have some other odd articulation. The mid-bicep swivel, his bicep goes down to a point where it almost looks like a weird amputee nub, and then it's almost like the rest of the arms are prosthetic.
Yeah. It gets very small there at that connection point. I've been sitting here trying to push it in further, like it popped out slightly. But then again, it gives some great range of motion.
But no, I think you can get some great action poses out of him. There's still a little bit of weirdness because you can see the T-joint in his legs. Yeah,
and this seems to be a new type of joint as well. Or at least one they haven't used in a while. Because it's a hybrid between just a T-joint and that new type of hip that they've been using in the Legends line for a while. And it also has the cut thigh articulation there too, so you can swivel it. I think they're really trying to maybe compete with some of those Japanese 6-inch figure companies that are really just slathering on the articulation.
Yeah, I'm kind of getting a slight Bandai feel off of him.
Yeah.
Because there you trade a little bit of aesthetic for articulation, and it works very well for an Iron Man. Comes off a little bit weird on a Spider-Man. But I really like this figure. I mean, I would definitely consider him super articulated.
Definitely. Hyper articulated. Right down his leg, double hinged knees, got the swivel calf and the Vonner ankles or the vonkles. He's got a nice swivel head with the double hinged neck so he can get some good looking up and looking down and side to side. All in all, I think it's a pretty darn good action figure. Until we see the movie and see how inaccurate this is. This might be a super inaccurate costume for all we know.
True, but it looks like the trailers look. And what I can say is, I love how it just splits the difference. And if you aren't excited about the new movie, but you like Spider-Man, get this figure. If you just like the movies of Spider-Man, get this figure.
Mm-hmm.
As compared to the next figure, which, if you don't like the movies, don't get this figure. And I'm talking about the Jamie Foxx Electro.
And this is very much a movie Electro. There's nothing comic booky about this version of Electro.
Now, I've only seen what they've shown of Jamie Foxx in the trailers and the few promotional stills they've released, but usually I've seen him in a hoodie, and he's got these really sunken eyes and everything, and I haven't really been able to get a fix on his outfit. So unlike Spider-Man, I can't say this looks movie accurate. All I can say is when I look at it, with his black outfit and his blue face, I'm getting a real strong Mr. Freeze, Arnold Schwarzenegger vibe.
Nice. Yeah, I'm getting a Dr. Manhattan from Watchmen type of thing going on here.
Oh, yeah, clearly that's the inspiration. They did that in Ultimate Spider-Man. That is the Electro there, as he's a Dr. Manhattan type.
Ah.
And so they're, the movie can say, oh, we're just doing Ultimate Electro. We're not ripping off Dr. Manhattan. Never mind that Ultimate Electro himself ripped off Dr. Manhattan.
Well, I can tell you my final assessment of this figure is going to weigh heavily on my enjoyment of the movie. If this is a good movie and Jamie Foxx is a great Electro, then I'll look back at this figure and be like, cool, nice, I'm glad to have that representation. But right now I'm kind of looking at it as like, yeah, it's a mostly black action figure that looks like the spray paint got a little bit away from him on his arms and shoulders. But other than that, not much there to look at.
And we do have 2 sets of hands. You get the Electro fingers as well as just standard fists, and then 2 heads, one with like electricity coming out his eyes and one without. And with the ones with the electricity coming out his eyes, it just kind of looks like my grandfather's eyebrows.
Yeah, I was not sure what that was. I'm glad you clarified that for me.
Yeah, that is weird. It's like shooting out the sides. I mean, hey, we got some translucent parts here. His hands are kind of milky translucent and his head is somewhat translucent. So overall, I'm kind of digging it.
I completely agree with you, though. The movie will make or break this figure. How accurate is this to the movie, and how cool is this character to the movie? And what I'm a little bit bummed about is this is not a swap-out character. So unless they surprise us at Toy Fair or maybe even San Diego Comic-Con by saying there's going to be a totally new Wave 3, it really looks like from the latest trailer, this is Spider-Man against the Sinister 3. There's the Green Goblin, there's Electro, and there's the Rhino. And I would have liked to have gotten the movie versions of all the baddies. I mean, they look like they're getting equal play in these trailers, but we're just getting the Electro in both 3 3/4 and 6-inch scale.
Maybe he's the main one.
Yeah, it's hard to tell where they're going to go with it. I mean, I would agree that, yeah, maybe Jamie Foxx is the big draw here, but come on, it's Paul Giamatti playing the Rhino. You don't get Paul Giamatti for a tiny little, 10-second role in a movie.
And they're all so different from their comic book counterparts that if the movie rocks, I'm really going to want those. If this is an X-Men First Class level movie, I'm going to want those outfits.
Yeah, are we looking at the beginning of like a missed opportunity? Like, did they have to put this together so long ago that the reason we got these figures is they didn't have a time to put together a Build-A-Figure movie Rhino? Because that would have been perfect for this.
Yeah. But for this figure, I really like the face sculpts that we got on him. I like the translucent fingers. I'm glad, though, that we got 2 sets of hands so we can have him with the Emperor, Sith Lightning, and without.
Totally.
And I like the sleek black paint job. It is a nice figure, and it's not as hyper-articulated as Spider-Man, but it's got all the articulation I would want for this figure.
Yeah, I mean, it's got your standard Legends articulation. There's nothing here that makes you think, ooh, they cheaped out on this.
Now, can you tell, is this a reuse of anything? Because, he's got knee pads and things, which are a little bit unusual, I would think, for Electro. Is this somebody else's knees coming back?
I don't think so. This feels like another all-new sculpt as well, because he's got these little nubby things all over him, too. That makes me think...
With great electricity powers comes great shoulder warts.
I mean, if anything, maybe they used his thighs, and that's about it, where his hips go into his crotch. But everything else looks like a unique sculpt to this character.
Well, let's move on to the comic-based characters, then. And we start off with the Superior Spider-Man.
Superior to what? To whom?
Superior to Peter Parker as Spider-Man. Spoiler alert for anyone a couple years behind on your comics. Peter Parker's dead.
What?
Yep, Peter Parker's dead. And Dr. Octopus did a mind switch, like a Freaky Friday type thing.
This sounds crazy already.
So actually, Dr. Octopus died, but Peter Parker's soul was in Dr. Octopus's body when it died. And so Dr. Octopus is now Spider-Man.
Wow.
But he also got Spider-Man's memories for a period and understands that with great power comes great responsibility. And so he's using his superior intellect as well as all of the spider powers to become a superior Spider-Man, even though if he is a little bit of a jackass. And it's actually, I love Dan Slott writing comics. It's hilarious because he's taken over Spider Islands and hired henchmen. Like, Dr. Octopus's henchmen are now working for the good guys, but he still treats them like the stupid henchmen they are. See? It's got a great opportunity. Check out a trade. I recommend it.
All right.
But people are up in arms because Peter Parker's dead. You know, Spider-Man for 60 years. Thrown out, now it's Dr. Octopus. And Dr. Octopus has upgraded the suit with all kinds of new spider tech. And that's the outfit we're looking at here.
I like the coloring on this one much better. It's a better red.
I think it's pretty cool, too. It reminds me a lot of that. Was it a Miles Morales?
Yeah, I can see that because of the primarily black outfit with just the red on the torso and the arms.
Yeah.
It has kind of got that going on in the darker red. What I like is that we're getting this because, like I said, if they'd just given us a standard comic-based Spider-Man, it wouldn't have been different enough from the Amazing Spider-Man 2 movie Spider-Man. But this is so of the moment. We all know everything in comics gets the reset button pushed. Whoever died is going to come back to life eventually. Eventually, Peter Parker will be back in the body, and this outfit will be back in a trunk of spare outfits. So this is so right now, Marvel now, you might even say, that it's a great opportunity to get this unusual, darker outfit. I really love the gold eyes and how those work.
Oh, I didn't even notice that he had gold eyes, but those are fantastic. I'm telling you, the coloring on this one's much, much better.
Yeah, it's such a strange color for his eyes that it almost made me think that it might have been one of those type of figures where they took a translucent head and painted over and left the eyes the color of the plastic. But a closer inspection reveals that it's actually a red plastic and they painted it that color.
Great job doing it, though.
Yeah. Does the top of yours on his head have some messed up lines, or do I have a bad sample here?
On mine, the forehead has two lines close together and then a gap where, like, it looks like if the lines were evenly spaced, it would be.
Yeah. Like, the top of his head looks like it's missing a line.
So, given that he is not a variant figure, we can keep our eyes out for a running correction on the head.
Or, I don't know how you'd be able to see it, though.
You'd have to buy and buy and open.
He's now a blind boxed.
And then you'd have an army of Spider-Men.
Now, this one's weird. I don't have another Spider-Man handy to know for sure if this is a reused buck, but it definitely feels like a reuse of a previous Spider-Man body because everything here is painted on. None of the webbing is sculpted in. The spider's not sculpted on. It's smooth to the touch. The head itself does seem unique. I don't know if we've seen this exact sculpt with these eyes before.
I do think this is the same buck because I'm looking at these, the double shoulders again, but not the same as the movie Spider-Man and with the hips and everything, the poses. I'm thinking this is the same as we got on the Miles Morales and on that Scarlet Spider and Big Time Spider-Man.
I felt like that too. I felt like it might have been the Miles Morales. That's the one that feels the closest to. Because remember when we reviewed that one, we said he was shorter than the average Spider-Man, and we were kind of cool with that because the character himself is younger and skinnier. So I grabbed that one, thinking that would be the guy that they repainted. I tell you what, it's not. This is a different sculpt yet from that, but about the same size. Smaller, wirier than the Legend Spider-Man, which you're talking about, the Scarlet Spider-Man, the Big Time Spider-Man, the Future Foundation Spider-Man. Those are all the same buck, and it's not that one either. So they've taken time again to sculpt yet another Spider-Man body.
Well, that's great. If this is a new, kind of medium to small buck that they're going to be using going forward, this has a lot of articulation to it, and I'm really liking how far back you can bend his back and still look natural, and the shoulder articulation going. He's got a lot of things going for him, plus the switch-out hands for the web shooting hands.
Yeah, and actually that's kind of cool, his abdominal articulation. They painted the spider legs throughout that. So no matter which way you bend him, his outfit goes with him.
That is very cool. And again, a nice attention to detail on this figure.
Definitely.
I also like that they gave him soles of his shoes again. Kind of like that last movie Spider-Man we were talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, and those are unique feet as well. They're not as pointy as some of the other Spider-Man's feet. This is interesting. I'm really surprised to be sitting here saying that this is a new sculpt, and not a bad one at that at all.
So would you call this a superior Spider-Man sculpt?
I would, like we've talked about in the past, you can only have so many red and black Spider-Man. It's nice to get nice change up. And I think they'll actually display nicely next to the Miles Morales. Now that I'm holding both in my hand, they're similar, but yet very different from one another.
And the two may meet up in Cataclysm. So let's look at the last three figures. These three are going to be the ones that I think you're going to have a little bit harder time finding in stores, because these are going to be the swap-out running change figures if the variants ever ship.
Yep. And some of the more interesting characters. We've been talking a lot about Spider-Man. I mean, it's a Spider-Man line, but these are going to be some different characters that a few of them needed some good upgrades to, and one I don't think I've ever seen before.
Let's go, in my opinion, least to greatest, and let's see if you agree with my ranking.
All right.
And the least of these, I'm going to say, is Beetle.
Ooh.
No? You disagree?
Well, I know you have a little thing for the Black Cat. And Beetle, to me, kind of falls in that cool Iron Man type of category, so they're pretty even in my book.
Okay, Beetle here...
I love him. He's just so crazy looking. He is all silver and red except for these green wings, the green inside. It's just awesome.
I think he's a good figure. I think every figure in this line is good. His red's a little too toyish a red. And his articulation, after just coming off the three figures we did, he's really lacking in the shoulder articulation. It looks like it's there, but it just doesn't want to move because of the bumps on his shoulders.
I did say he was useful. I just said he was awesome.
I love the face that they gave him. I love the paint job. It's kind of a fade from a green to a yellowish green on the underside of the wings. I think that his giant clawed toes are awesome. I just think that he comes off the most toy figure of this entire wave.
Oh, yeah, he doesn't look like he belongs in the line at all.
I can agree with that assessment a little bit. It does feel, just even in holding in your hand, it feels like they used somehow a cheaper plastic. Like the red feels more brittle than normal Marvel Legends action figures.
I agree completely. I didn't try to force the shoulders to go back because I'm scared of snapping him.
Yeah, and I'm not too concerned with the color. I think the color's fine, and the silver on top of it's cool. But it feels like it needed a little bit of weathering or something additional to make it feel like it's not just silver paint slapped over a bright red body. And the wings do help with that. Like you said, the wings have a nice gradient from a dark green out to a nice almost yellow green, which help break that up. But if you take those off and you're just looking at him, he kind of looks like Donnie Darko got run through a Easter egg.
He looks like Frank.
Yeah, Frank the Bunny. Nice. Good callback. He really does now.
So that's kind of cool. Maybe we can just customize some Frank the Bunnies out of this. And But no, I think, hey, you know what? I probably won't display him with my Spider-Man guys. I might put him over with my Iron Man armors. I think he might look cool over there.
Yeah, you have a thing for the armor, and I just think that articulation-wise, this guy's kind of lacking. He's got the abdominal articulation, like you mentioned, but first of all, I'm noticing the more I move it, already the metallic silver paint's starting to chip a little.
That's sad. I hate when that happens.
Bummer.
Just overall, I love the sculpt of this, but he's a stand in one place on your shelf, not find a million ways to pose kind of figure.
Yeah, I don't want to give the impression that he's not as well articulated as your standard Legends figure, because he is. He's got the swivel ankles and double hinged knees and swivel waist and hips. He's got the articulation. It's just, like you said, in the last couple figures we looked at were Spider-Man with those triple, quadruple shoulder blades, that this is just your standard ball and joint shoulder, which is pretty typical for a Legends figure.
Now, he is going to be swapping out, theoretically, we're going to just be optimistic here and say it is, for a boomerang in the future. And the pictures I've seen of Boomerang on the back of this card here makes him look pretty cool, though. I think I'm going to be more excited for Boomerang than I am for Beetle.
And Boomerang is the one figure that we have seen actually in person. He was in the case at Comic-Con last summer. And we weren't really sure how he was coming, if he was just going to be a Legends, or if he was going to be with these or what.
So was Trevor.
I'm still holding out hope for Trevor. He's not gone yet. He'll be next year's comic book subscription premium.
So my next one, which I guess swaps places with you for the least of the wave, Black Cat.
Yeah.
And you're right, I've got a character fix going on here. I realize that I have a lot of original Black Cat art, and this may be my character focus, and there's absolutely nothing perverted about it. It's just I grew up reading Spider-Man and Black Cat comics, and I always liked her power.
And she just happens to have really large boobs.
This figure, she does. She did it when I was reading
Wait a second, you have lots of Black Cat stuff, and she's always got big boobs, tiny waist, and a big butt.
And I cannot lie. To be honest with you, I don't think her boobs are any bigger than every other Marvel Legend chick's boobs.
They are.
I think it's the furry boob window that gives them a little more heft.
But she's got so much boob, you could, like, set her drink on it. Because they're sticking out just so straight, and they're wider than her body.
Well, if you think she'd like that, then I guess I could, but...
It may not help that she comes with a whip. That has a little more implication than a gun.
Sadly, her hands look like she's ready for some action.
Like holding a beer.
No, that's not what I was thinking of.
You're right, I have a bit of a character focus, but I do like this figure because, first of all, it's a little bit more risque than Hasbro usually goes. Kudos for that. I mean, I don't know that we're ever going to get that Phoenix variant that I thought they were going to do, but this is up there with some of the Comic-Con exclusive Thunderbolts figures we got that we thought were a little bit more risque.
Oh, yeah. And I'm thinking using quite a bit of the parts, except for her furry parts and her head. I think we're using that new female buck. I feel like we saw high heels like this before. Are these the same high heels Emma Frost is wearing? She's got the badonkadonk going on.
She's got the painted belly button, which I always find a little weird.
That is weird.
It's just how skin tight it is. It's vacuum sealed. It's so tight.
Now, I'm going to ding this figure a little bit for articulation as well, because her hair is such that you can't turn her head. We were talking when we reviewed the Wolverine figures about how great a job they did with some of that hair and allowing for still neck articulation. Here I tried turning her head and it just popped off in my hand.
Yeah. To reveal that her face is actually painted on rather than being sculpted or molded in a plastic of flesh color, it's white.
And the hair also provides limited arm articulation.
That's one downside, though, of female action figures. If they give them any kind of hair, you can't move them.
Yeah, and the hair's a little bit rubbery where it's shorter, but she can't look but an inch either way. In scale, not a full inch in 6-inch scale. She could barely turn her head all the way around.
And I think she and Beetle both, it's weird, they have this like ratchet shoulder articulation that snaps into position. And that's reminding me of like the old Hulk in the Toys R Us 2-packs, but lately I haven't been seeing this ratcheted shoulder articulation. But these two have it. But I do like the wash they gave the hair and on the fur cuffs everywhere, the white with the blue. It really works for her. And I think the black paint, the nice glossy black paint, the well-defined lines of her mask, and the wash on the hair, that's what just sets her, to me, a little bit above Beetle.
Yeah, you're right. That's exactly what Beetle is missing, is a little bit more attention to detail, a wash or something a little bit extra to put him over the edge. Because this blue highlight here really does make her feel like a comic book character. And she's going to have some of the same issues all the other female ones have too, like standing her up without a stand, I feel like is going to be a nightmare.
I've had no problems here on my desk, but I may have a little bit more trouble in the photo studio standing her on the felt.
Yeah. And the other place I might ding her is that I don't know if it's the fur on her gloves, but it's preventing her elbows from bending very far.
I don't think it's the fur. I just think that's about as far as it goes, because it's not hitting. But I do see what you mean. It has less range of mobility than we've seen on some of the other figures. And finally, the whip. It's kind of silly. It looks like a back scratcher.
It does.
It's like a chicken claw or an eagle talon.
I realize it's more of a grappling hook. She swings by Spider-Man's side. But yeah. I like the figure, I like the sculpt, and I really do hope we see the swap-out figure of Spider-Girl that's supposed to be coming. We haven't gotten her before, I don't believe.
Yeah, that I can't tell you for sure, because she's never been one of my favorite characters, so if there is one from way back in the day, I never sought it out or tried to get it, but that costume I have not seen.
I don't think this Spider-Girl existed back in the Toy Biz days, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Listeners, let us know. But finally, my favorite figure of this entire case of figures is Carnage.
You and everybody else. I think this is going to be the impossible one to find.
He's got a lot of coming off of him. And it's awesome. He is tricky to get out of the package. I will tell you that you have to take his back piece off and then take him out.
Which is kind of easy, because it's just a little peg hole thing. But yeah, if you didn't realize that at first, I could see you spending quite a bit of time trying to thread that through as you pulled him through the plastic coffin.
The only ding I can give this figure is, like Beetle, the red is a little bit plasticky, but given how wacky a character Carnage is, and if you look at like the Maximum Carnage comics and things, that's kind of the ink they use to draw him anyway, so it feels right. And this head just carries the maniacal Carnage with the teeth, and some of them have some red. I don't know if that's a bad paint job or blood. I'm going to choose blood. And the sharp teeth, the big eyes, the paint job on the body of the black symbiote all over the red. This figure is just all kinds of awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Looks like they used the iridescent white paint for the eyes on this, which just gives it that little extra pop.
The only thing I wish they'd done, and I never even would have wished for it, if they hadn't given me swap out parts on the movie-based figures, but I wish they would have given me a swap out hand, because he likes to take his hand and make it like a cutting blade. So like an axe hand would have been really awesome.
Yeah, kind of like the 3 3/4 inch action figure that they came out with. He had some pop on things like that.
Yeah, but this guy, I mean, he's got your standard Marvel Legends articulation, and you can move him in all different ways because all this spindly symbiote coming off of him that looks like a bad symbiote hair day is all so rubbery, it's never going to get in the way of moving him.
Yeah, I'm impressed, because what we're looking at here is just your standard medium-sized buck that they obviously sculpted some symbiote onto, gave us some new hands and a new head. But, you know, the torso and the legs, those are just your standard Marvel Legends buck, and they did a great job painting this up. You know, the more I look at it, I think it's actually based on the Black Panther, because I'm seeing some ribs in his lower legs, kind of like Panther's boots.
Oh yeah. If you look, you can see it. Because of the crazy symbioteness, you don't really pay attention, but yeah, there's definitely some sculpting in the thighs and...
Yep.
That symbiote looks like it could be just leftover plastic shavings at the factory.
Yeah, but I love how they did it. You can see where they put on the extra pieces, and I think that they're glued in there. I'm certainly not going to pull very hard on them to try to pull them out, but you see where each one connects into the leg piece or the arm piece.
Oh, yeah. Kind of tell there.
Yeah, Carnage is totally, totally awesome in this wave, and I'm also really hoping we get that swap out of Toxin.
Yeah, he's looking creepy and all kinds of scary with that. Just the teeth. Oh, man. That one I do hope we see.
I do, too, just so we can have an episode that says, don't you know that you're Toxin? Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo.
So you buy all 6 of these figures.
But
so
wait, there's more!
But wait, don't call just yet.
If you buy a case of Spider-Man figures right now, we're gonna give you Ultimate Goblin free.
What? With flames?
He looks like he's in Gwar. I know I've said that before, but he does look like he's in Gwar.
Yeah. He's got a Doomsday thing going on with the spikes coming out of his shoulders and like a spiky beard.
Now, we've talked about this before we had him in hand, but now that we have him, Justin, you confirmed for me before the show, what we really have is a Hulk.
Yes, we do. We have a Hulk. And not the Hulk that I would have guessed that we were getting. And I would have thought it made sense that they would have used the Red Hulk body, which we also got as a Toys R Us 2-pack Green Hulk years later, because that Red Hulk was a Build-A-Figure. You know, they already had it made so the arms popped out and the legs popped out. But what we have is the Avengers movie Hulk body here. And if you look at him closely, you don't have to look that closely. I mean, look at his pants. It's got that ripped jean that goes past his knee joint that we were so excited about when that Avengers Hulk came out, and the weird wings on his back. But yeah, cast in a much darker green plastic and shinier than the Hulk. So it feels new enough, and it's a good reuse of a big body into a new character.
Yeah, I mean, the new hands, new feet, and new head, plus the new, I guess all new arms with these spikes coming off of it.
Yeah, they might have reused the biceps and the forearms, Well, no, the forearms, they might have had to sculpt extra onto it. So maybe just the biceps are a rerun. The rest had to be extra sculpting going on there.
And then you add the fire reflects to it, which are a very cool translucent fire.
And I like how they attach versus just being part of the figure. A little problematic is if you move him, his fire falls off, but they look good.
I think it's more effective on his back, like something is burning on him. I'm not quite sure if I have him on his forearms correctly, because they almost look like accessories on a night out or something. Like, oh, don't forget your fire wristbands.
That's how they look in the back of the package, yeah.
It's a cuff, yes. With that on, he's very Godzilla-like to me. Is it me or...
No, I can definitely see that, especially with the new movie coming out. But still, I mean, he's a hefty figure. I love the big figures, and this is a great new way to get a Goblin.
Yeah, I'm not complaining. I think it's a great Build-A-Figure, and, since the price didn't go up, it, didn't take away the value of paying for 6 figures and getting a 7th.
And what I really like, though, and I think all 3 of us can agree then, is these are 6 strong figures. There's not a dud in the way where you go, well, crap, I wouldn't normally buy that figure, but I have to because I want the Goblin.
Exactly. I think it's a very strong wave. I might think twice about getting the movie Spider-Man, but at the end of the day, I'm going to get a movie Spider-Man, Even if the movie's not all that great, I'm going to end up with a movie version Spider-Man.
So that is it for this wave of Legends. We will be looking at the Captain America Legends a little bit later on. They did the exact opposite of Spider-Man in shipping. Because instead of shipping all 6 figures and allowing you to build the figure and then wait for variants, they shipped the Captain America and then 2 figures and the variants of 2 of those figures, so you've only got half the line.
Right, and none of the movie figures yet. It's all comic-based. And on the back of those packages, I realize it says Fall 2014 for the other Build-A-Figure characters that we're waiting for. But I'm guessing it'll be more like Iron Man 3 because they said fall as well. And we were seeing those Wave 2 things by early summer.